The Iron Works in Luleå has been making steel since 1943. Steel for the world. From iron ore mined in Malmfälten. SSAB in Luleå is now an important part of a global company, but we are also an important part of our cities and the region's past, present, and future. Thousands of people work here. We are chemists, mechanics, and operators, logisticians, casters, and engineers. We are machine operators, metallurgists, and technicians, bricklayers, product developers, and electricians. We thought we'd tell and show you how it works when we at SSAB in Luleå make the strongest, most advanced steel in the world. Iron ore in pellet form comes by train from LKAB in Malmfälten to SSAB in Luleå. It is unloaded and taken to the blast furnace. SSAB buys coal from Australia and the USA. The coal is transported by ship to the port in Luleå, and then onwards to SSAB's coal store and coking plant. At the coking plant, the coal is heated in furnaces and transformed into gas and coke. The coke, which is coal with a different form and hardness, is then cooled down. The gas is cleaned and converted into usable energy, while the coke is transported on conveyors to the blast furnace, where the manufacturing of strong steel can start. In the blast furnace, iron ore pellets are transformed into liquid iron. The blast furnace in Luleå runs almost constantly, producing 2.5 million tons of iron a year. The furnace is fed constantly with iron ore pellets, coke, and additives. Coke acts as fuel in the furnace, removing the oxygen in the iron ore pellets, which are converted into liquid iron. The liquid iron is poured into railway wagons known as torpedoes. A torpedo holds 300 tons of iron. The torpedoes move on to the steelworks, where the next stage in production awaits. Here, the iron is poured into pig iron ladles. The ladles then travel into what we call the steelworks. This is where iron becomes steel. First, sulfur is removed from the iron. This must be done so that the finished steel will not crack when it hardens and takes shape. When the sulfur has been removed, the iron moves on to the LD furnace. In the LD furnace, first of all, scrap iron is mixed with the liquid iron. The scrap is added to cool down the iron in the furnace. At the same time, it melts and can be recycled. In the LD furnace, carbon is removed from the iron by blowing oxygen into the steel vessel. When all the carbon has gone, the iron has become steel and will be hard-wearing and workable. The steel is then poured into a new ladle to move on to the next stage in the process. At this point, alloys are added, blends of elements that affect the properties of the steel. Now it's time to fine-tune the recipe. This is done in ladle metallurgy. SSAB produces more than 100 different kinds of steel. Each kind has different properties, depending on what the steel will be. The recipe is fine-tuned by adding elements such as silicon, manganese, aluminum, niobium, and titanium. The steel is stirred to even out the temperature and mix all the elements. Throughout the whole process, samples have been taken and sent to the lab. The steel is now analyzed very carefully. Everything must be just right when you're producing the best steel in the world. In continuous casting, the steel is poured into a chilled mold where it hardens to form a rod of steel. The steel passes between rolls and is cooled by water. Finally, the steel hardens and can be split into long pieces known as slabs. Each slab has a special number so that you always know what kind of steel it is, where the steel is going, and what it will ultimately become. Now the steel is ready to leave the steelworks. The slabs are loaded onto trains and travel from SSAB in Luleå to SSAB in Borlänge. The steel's journey and processing continue there. SSAB sells steel to the whole world. It is used where steel needs to be thin and light, yet still hard-wearing, workable, and high strength, as in cars and trucks, or in cranes, dump trucks, and excavators. With SSAB's steel, vehicles and structures are both lighter and stronger. Our customers can manufacture products that weigh less, last longer, and take bigger loads. This means that our steel contributes to reducing the impact on our environment and our resources. Our steel is sustainable in many ways. When we make steel, energy-rich gas is formed, which we clean and use as energy instead of just discharging it. The gas also goes to Luleåkraft, where it is converted into electricity and district heating, which can heat and light up the whole town. We are constantly developing the sustainable way we produce steel. It is our vision to be fossil-free in 2045. Together, we continue to make steel to be proud of. From Luleå, for a stronger, lighter, and more sustainable world.